Alright, today we're going to take this grill off of the Tundra and paint the chrome around that outer edge, all to match the body. So our first step is going to be to remove this cover here. And you can do that just by sliding it forward, and it'll reveal some screws that we need to remove in order to get the grill off. So if you snap it forward, you see these little clips. They all go in that direction, so they're all pointing towards the cab of the truck. And then this is the Phillips head or 10 millimeters that we need to pull out that are lurking behind it. And a good best practice when you're pulling these screws out is to put them in a magnetic tray so you don't lose any of them. Okay, this is from under the hood looking up at the grill. There are 10 of these 10 millimeter bolts that we need to remove to get this off. You can see all those. And we'll pull this guy out. Don't lose your bolt. And that's our grill off the truck. And that's a truck with no grill and a whole lot of dirt under there. I'm going to have to clean that up real quick. You know I can't have that, right? Quick wax. Because why not? That's why. A little microfiber after that. The filth in there. That's a lot of years of garbage. That looks much better clean, doesn't it? I think so. Alright, let's get to work. We got some sanding to do. Alright, now that this is removed, let's disassemble it so that we can start our scuffing and painting. I know I've gone over this once before, but in case you didn't see that other video, to remove this Tundra badge, there's two little clips at the top here that you push down and forward, and that'll cause the badge to lean forward a little bit, and you can pull it off from the front. This is a good angle for that, so I'm pushing on the badge from the back on those two upper clips, and that loosens it up, and it pulls out like that. Pretty simple. Next thing we're going to do is remove these screws that are holding on this metal support at the bottom of the grill. You can see all those guys. Okay, with those screws removed, we can remove this rail. It should just come up as one piece. Alright, now that we have that metal bracket off, you'll notice that there's just a whole bunch of little clips that are holding on the plastic part of the grill. So you can see them, like right here's one, right here's one, right here's one, right here's one. They're all over the place. And there's three here, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then there's some more down in there. So we're just going to go through and pop all of those things loose and pull the plastic off of the chrome piece. It's a bit of a coordinated effort to get this thing to pry up. As you can see, I've got this side loose now. So it is possible. It just takes a little bit of time and fidgeting with the clips and getting them loose and holding them in one place while you're prying at something else. But you can do it. Take your time. Alright, this is the completely disassembled grill and the part that we want to paint. Okay, worth noting where this panel meets the hood, there is a little rubber seal that's about the consistency of a windshield wiper that runs along the entire top edge here. I'm not going to want to sand or paint that, so I'm going to go ahead and mask it off now before I even get started sanding. Now that this is all masked off now, this rubber seal here, I don't want to get any paint on and don't really want to scuff with sandpaper. And also want to mention that this is now pretty flimsy. I mean, it doesn't have all that reinforcement that it used to have on it with the other layers of plastic and metal, so be careful as you're putting pressure on this. If you can see the reflection of my little flip video camera there. And over here you cannot really see it. You can see the light, but that's it. And that's what we're going for in the whole thing. Okay, I wanted to show you a little bit more of the scuffing here so far. It takes a lot of elbow grease and it makes your hands look like that. I'm going to use this invisible glass foam spray cleaner because it does tend to kind of lift the dust and stuff out of it. And then we'll go over it with a wax and grease remover after we kind of get all the heavy gunk off of it. But this stuff works great. Alright, before we hit it with this wax and grease remover, we really don't want to be touching it again after that because the oils in your hands and things like that are could contaminate the surface, and we don't want anything like that to happen. So what I'm going to do is attach this to that box, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I've set it so that this is hanging over the edge of the box, so that we can paint up and get that top lip taken care of, and be able to walk around the whole thing and paint it. So you want to be able to get around it. And then I'm going to use the factory holes that they use to attach it to the hood. I'm going to put some screws in there with washers on them to hold that in place so that it doesn't fall off the box. This is one of the screws I'm going to use to attach it to the box. Alright, now that's attached to the box. Alright, I'm just going to pour the degreaser right onto this microfiber cloth. Get it good and wet, and I'm going to get after it. Alright, we're ready for our first coat of primer, and I am using a dupli-color self-etching primer. Don't forget to clean out your can by tipping it upside down until just air comes out. Like that. This is our second coat. It's also going to be a nice light dusting. Okay, we've waited a few minutes and it's drying, so we're going to hit it with coat number 3. Alright, this is after 3 coats of the etching primer. I'm going to throw one more coat on top of this. Really light, once again. It turned out really smooth and good. And there is a little bit, you can hear it, just ever so slightly, a little bit of roughness to it, but it's barely rough at all. I mean, it's really turned out beautiful. So I'm using some 400 grit waterproof sandpaper, so I'm just going to give it a real light scuffing with this, and then we're going to put color on it. I've wrapped this 400 grit around my scuff pad, just so I don't put any like finger slots in this, because this will show through the overcoat, the top coat, if we're not careful. So just barely knocking off some of that high stuff to make it very, very smooth. Alright, now that I've gone over it with that real light sanding, you can hear it's very smooth now. I mean, there's not even the slightest bit of imperfection in it. So I'm going to clean it up with a little bit more of this wax and grease remover, and we're going to paint top coat over it. Real light coat for coat number 1, remember. Not trying to cover it, trying to tack it up. I'm going to turn your can upside down and do our little trick. Okay, it's been about, I don't know, 5 minutes since coat number 1, so we're ready to apply coat number 2. Let's keep going. Okay, we're ready for the third coat. You'll notice I turned the grill around just so I could get a better shot at the top of it. One thing I've been doing between coats is using this heat gun to warm up the parts, because it is kind of a chilly day. It's getting dark now. So just keep it moving. You don't want to leave the heat gun on any one spot for very long or you will ruin it. So you can cause it to blister or bubble if you get too crazy. So I'm just trying to keep it, in that optimal range of between 70 and 80 degrees, and that's what this is doing, making it think it's a nicer day than it is. Okay, we're ready to apply our first really light coat of clear. Then we'll come back and do a heavier coat in a minute. Alright, I wanted to give you a clear and honest picture of this. It really came out badly, so you can see the
clear coat went on very orange peely. So now I'm going to work my ass off to get the orange peel off. This is why people plastic dip stuff, because it's so much easier than this. So this got, when I sprayed the clear, look, the dog's not even happy with it. The dog is pissed, see? She's like, what the? Looks like an orange. Only it's not orange at all. But she's colorblind, you know, she's a dog. So what does she know? But anyways, you can see my reflection there. I'm waving at you. Yeah, that doesn't look like I'm waving. That's very poor. So anyway, it's very rough to the touch. It just didn't come out well at all. So we're gonna fix it. A lot of 2000 grit sandpaper and water. So it's gonna be wet sanding. So there's my spray bottle and some 1500 grit and 2000 grit. I'm gonna start with 2000. And if that doesn't do the job, then we're gonna switch over to the slightly rougher 1500 grit. But really, both of them are gonna be like rubbing paper on this. It's just to knock down that layer of the ripples from the orange peel. Alright, paper wet, piece wet, and we'll get after it. Really just gentle, there's not huge pressure getting thrown on this. And don't put any pressure on the edge at all. Don't want to cut the edge and wear down to the bare surface. But we'll go over the whole thing like this several times, see if we can knock off that orange peel. You know, I like to spray both the paper, like that, and the parts you're getting. The reason for that is any grit that builds up on the paper, you kind of wipe off when it's wet like that. And then you're not rubbing the grit back in because you don't want to scratch it and you're really just trying to get rid of the high points. Alright, this is how it looks with just the wet residue from the sanding still on it. And all I did was 2000 grit. That seemed to be enough to kind of cut through that first layer. Now I'm going to wipe it clean for you and we'll do it all over again. This is a clean new microfiber cloth from Costco. If you're not buying them at Costco, I don't know why not. They're super cheap there. You can get a huge bag of them for practically nothing. But anyways, I'm going to clean this all up and then we'll sand it again. Alright, I've been sanding it for quite a bit of time now, maybe an hour. Just really lightly sanding, lots of water. That's why it looks so milky and disgusting right now. But I just want you to see that all I'm doing is sanding the clear, and this is 2000 grit, so it's going to be a while before you cut through it with that. Alright, I've let this paint cure for 24 hours. This is the last coat of acrylic clear coat, and you can see that it works a little better. You can see my reflection in it. It was a lot clearer than the original clear coat that I put on and had to sand off with some 2000 grit and wet sand it. It was a pain in the ass, but it turned out pretty good. I think it's smoother even than it would have been had I not gone through that step. But now we're ready to put it back together again, so let's get started. I've already removed all the masking tape that we put over this little rubber bit here. It looks pretty good. And you know me, I went out of my way to clean and kind of buff this whole thing, so this old grill looks pretty new again. Okay, now you can see all these little clips here. These are mostly guides that we'll slide it down over. Get straight up, and then let's line it up with those guides, and we'll slide it and snap all these clips into place. A little bit of pressure. You can hear it snapping. You can see these clips have all popped up. It's very simple actually. We'll snap, and all these clips here have popped up. Just one, another. Just make sure they're all clipped. Yeah, you can see all these little clips, just make sure that those are popped in as well. Okay, we're going to put this brace back in, and it just slides into place, and then we'll put the screws in to hold it down. Get these all started, and then I'll hit them with the drill. But don't over tighten these. Remember, they're going into plastic. There we go. Alright, these are all the parts we're going to put back onto the truck. And there's the truck. Let's get started. Okay, so these are all semi-lined up, but not quite perfect yet. You can see there's a big gap here. And we'll straighten that out right now by putting the screws in and lining them up. Now, I'm not going all the way tight. I'm just going to kind of snug them up. I'm going to move around and try and equalize that pressure that we're putting on it. And then I'll push on it and make sure we get a nice tight fit before I tighten everything down. Alright, now I'm going to put these guys back on, all these little nuts that we removed from these bolts. They're everywhere, you know. So let's get started on that. Just getting them all started. Once you have everything tightened down and you're happy with it, you can snap this piece back in this cover. For me, I'm crazy, so I clean the part inside and out. Because why not? I mean, it's going back on my truck. It's good to know that the stuff underneath the stuff is clean too, right? But anyway, you can see that there's these kind of guides and tabs everywhere on this. So it really just kind of snaps into place. So you just set it in like that. Make sure that it's all lined up and then slide it back. Alright, that's with the cover in place. Now let's put the bracket back on for the latch mechanism. Alright, this is the hood latch bracket, or the latch itself, the handle. And this is the bolt we're going to stick into that hole. And then this guy pivots into place. Okay. And these guys. And to make sure you got it right, give it a little test. Press here. Looks pretty good to me. It's lined up with the old marks that were on the hood, so I guess it's going to latch just fine. Let's put our black billet back in. Okay, the billet grill's back in, and the last step of this whole process, other than closing the hood, putting our Plasta-dipped Toyota badge on there.